Hey, this is Dr. Torrey. I'm here at TED Med, as you can see in the background. I'm standing in the Booz Allen Hamilton booth with a bunch of Alpha Chimp graphics behind me. So I'm here with Lauren Van Scoy, who is the author of Last Wish. And so we have her book right here, and I'm going to ask her a few questions. The fact that she wrote this book, as she's currently the chief fellow of pulmonary and critical care at Drexel in the cultural hub of the universe, Philadelphia. So I was born and raised there, so hey, I got to give a plug to Philly. So anyway, the fact that she wrote this book illustrates some major points in the RookieDoctor.com site, which I'll go over. But I want to talk to her about her passion and her interests and what made her do this. So if you could, tell me a little bit about yourself, and then tell me a little bit about the book.
So my name is Lauren Van Scoy, and I grew up in Philadelphia, and I went to medical school at Drexel University College of Medicine. I did my residency there, and I'm currently a pulmonary critical care fellow at Hahnemann University Hospital. No, that's okay. At Hahnemann University Hospital, and I really noticed when I was a medical student, when I was doing my ICU rotations, that I was sort of hovering around the families of the patients more so than I was sort of hovering in the patient's rooms, and I was having really, really meaningful conversations with them, and I found that a lot of them had a lot of sort of shock and weren't really prepared for the situations that they were facing, and I was so sad for them. And I thought, after a month in the ICU, I was seeing the same sort of situations over and over and over, and it was like I was having the same conversations, and I thought, wow, isn't this an opportunity to really sort of try to write something that can touch people, is something that people will want to read, that hopefully will be emotionally touched when they read it and engaged when they read it, and then also be exposed to sort of the issues that we see every day in the ICU, but maybe completely foreign to other people.
Right.
So I really wrote the book to reach people, but also to sort of help myself in getting out some of the expressions as a medical student that I was feeling, and sort of being able to put into words some of the emotional hardships that I was feeling going through all of these experiences with these families.
Right.
So it kind of had two different tones to it for me.
Yeah. With Last Wish, which, by the way, you can get at drtorrey.com/lastwish. drtorrey.com/lastwish. So with Last Wish, you're going to see, as you read through some of the stories, you're going to see a wide range of emotions, a wide range of things that people have, the way they've had to deal with things, or the way that and sometimes different family members dealt with things in different ways. And so and this is something that our data-driven, evidence-based approach to stuff often misses in our training. And so this is an awesome opportunity for you to do a deep dive into some of these things and start to prepare yourself to dynamically deal with family situations. Now, let's just talk about how did you do it as a med student, because one of the things that I like to tell people is that strengthen your strengths. Like, do the things that you love, do the things that you're passionate about, and don't worry about the job descriptions and where it all fits in. Do what you love, because so I'm wondering, now everyone thinks, oh, I have to study pharmacology, or I have to bring up nephrology, or I have to do whatever as a med student. So how did you find the time, and how did you work that in there, especially family and friends and social life and all that? How'd you work it in?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I wrote the book as a resident, which was actually even probably harder than a medical student, because, I'm doing these overnight shifts and et cetera, et cetera. I found that it was sort of therapeutic for me after a long shift to kind of go home and write. I wasn't a writer before. I always had an interest in writing, but I just kind of had all of these sort of ideas and emotions I wanted to express, and I felt like I was going to kind of implode. So I did it mostly on weekends on my free time, and I did it at my favorite coffee shop in Philadelphia. The majority of the book was written there, and I just sat there and I just tried to enjoy what I was doing, and it came out very quickly. A lot of people ask how long it took to write the book. For me, it didn't take very long when it's something that comes from your heart and something that you're passionate about, and just came out on paper. When there's something you're passionate about, you find time for it,
Right.
And some of it I wrote in the coffee shop, some of it I wrote at home, laying in my bed with my dog and my cats next to my husband, and it was something that was more pleasurable to me than work.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things that she just mentioned there was how incrementally she did it, and not only that she didn't necessarily have experience in writing. So this is a really, really, really important point, that when you're passionate about something, it just flows. It can just pour right out of you. And when it's emotional, when it's tied to emotions, you can pump a lot of feeling in there, and it's important to get it out sort of as things occur too.
Absolutely.
So that you can really
Don't
get
put
the
it
good
off.
feel. Right. And I will say this, that throughout my med school and internship and residency, I also accumulated stories. But the difference between you and I is that you took action on them. So I have probably 30 sitting on my hard drive that I've never done anything with, because of one thing that often stops people is their self-esteem. And now that might sound crazy because we're in the medical profession and this and that, and we're supposed to be successful, but sometimes we feel like our ideas, are they really worth getting out there? I mean, right now we're at TED Med. Every single person we meet is like completely amazing.
Yeah.
So how did you deal with the fact that, well, I'm not a writer, in quotes,
Right.
and I'm in training and all this stuff. So how did you deal with the self-esteem part?
You're always afraid that if you're going to put something out there that you're going to, not succeed or, whatever. I think for me, the most important thing when I wrote the book, I didn't write the book to write a book necessarily. I wrote the book to help people and also help myself. There's a lot of my own, emotions and insecurities in the book. For me, you have to just set very clear goals. So if your goal is to become a national best-selling author, then that may not be the best goal, especially when you're a doctor or a medical student or whatever. But for me, I just wanted the book to reach one person. And I thought if I can reach one person, then that will be success to me. And once I reached one person, then I said, okay, I want to reach 10 people. And it kind of goes from there. And so when you set small goals that are achievable, I think that really helps me. I think having reasonable goals can help you get over that sort of insecurity. And by all means, people laughed at me. They're like, "What are you doing? You're writing a book, okay? Miss Princess author." I just ignore all that stuff because it's you just have to kind of go with what you feel is right, and if it's successful, great, and if it's not, it's successful to me.
So important point just mentioned right there was to ignore the naysayers. There's going to be a boatload, no matter which path you choose. We've gone over that plenty of times, but now I want to ask you some of the technical side. So how did you deal with, say, the HIPAA side, or how did you protect patient identity as you wrote the stories, or and then also how did you deal? What was your first step for approaching, like, say, a publisher and all that stuff?
So the first thing that I did was, I talked to my mentors and I talked to people who, I thought would be able to help me move this project forward. And, we went through all the procedures and protocols that you have to go through for HIPAA, and I had, thankfully, a wonderful friend who helped me with the initial consent forms for the patients. And we brought that through the hospital compliance and whatnot. So there was, a lot of sort of paperwork stuff that had to be done. But once that was done, I found that approaching the patients and getting their stories, they were more than willing. I still talk to some of the patients now. They text me when they're in the hospital, hey, I'm in room 12, whatever. And, I come see them. So, I have a rapport with the patients. And for HIPAA, I changed a lot of the, dates and circumstances. Yeah, some of the diagnoses are slightly different, just so you can't, wouldn't recognize the people in the story. So, it's based all on true medical stories, but some of the medical data is altered slightly to protect HIPAA. Once I had the first story, which was a patient who, this is the first patient in the book who's wonderful and amazing. Once I had the first story, I thought, before I kind of take this further, I'm going to feel it out. And so I looked up successful authors, and I read a lot on the internet. There's a lot of internet stuff about how to get a literary agent, how to publish a book, and whatnot. And this was also, by the way, a few years ago, so it was before really the ebook explosion. So I was starting to reach out to agents, and they were reaching back to me, and I just contacted I contacted an author, Jill Bolte Taylor, who wrote My Stroke of Insight, and which is like a national bestseller. So she's a wonderful author, and she actually had a TED Talk a few years ago that went viral, and I had seen that, and I just was so blown away by her. So I just took a chance, and I emailed her, and she emailed me back, and we started a little email conversation, and I told her about the project, and she said, you really should meet my agent, and that's sort of how it went from there. And she introduced me to my publisher and agent, Ellen Stiefler, who's fantastic and has just taken the project, and we're running with it. So here we are at TED Med, and that's really how it happened. It was just by daring to send someone an email and then being kind enough to write me back, and then things just happened from there.
So that's another powerful lesson, is that going back to that whole self-esteem thing, if you just ask, you'd be amazed at what, people love, especially people that are, right now, I'm interviewing Lauren, and she is eager to talk about her book. I could have been nervous about approaching her. She could have been nervous about approaching me with the, blogger guy, so, it's something where if you just ask, you see the power of things. And even if somebody seems like they're famous or they might not have time or whatever, they love to talk about what they're passionate about. So approach them, ask, and take a path that other people aren't taking. That's what is so awesome about your book, and about the story behind the book, and that it touches on such an important issue, and and the way you went about it, the time in your life you went about it. So, I mean, when I was starting all my membership sites and my humor blog and rookiedoctor.com and all these things, there was so many naysayers coming out of the woodwork, just saying like, "What are you doing that for? You did all these years of clinical training and But I wanted to get a message out there. You want to get a message out there. This is really awesome.
Yeah.
So, again, the book is Last Wish, and you can get it at drtory.com/lastwish. Okay, so check it out. Did you have any last words before, or not last word? Well, yeah, no death jokes. Okay,
no, I just would say, I just think what you're doing is amazing, and that trying to reach people that are maybe struggling, have ideas, or struggling, with studies or the workload. It really, you can do it all, and people always ask me, how did you do that? You just, for what you're passionate about, you find time for it, and you enjoy doing it, and it starts to blend work and fun, and I think that's really, really important.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank
It's
you.
been awesome. Yeah.